Hey everybody, how you doing? We're gonna play some Lord of the Rings 5e by Free League. So buckle up. We're ready for session two. We had session zero about a month ago. We had session one a couple weeks ago, and now we're doing session two. Here in a moment, we're gonna recap what the heck is going on, not for just for chat, but also for our live listening audience. Um, Actually, let's just go ahead and do that right now. Ulysses, why don't you go ahead and give people a rundown of what the situation looks like?
So last time we were together, the fellowship traveled to the Gondorian town of Pelargir, which is still a very friendly place to those of us representing Ecthelion and the White City. Um, when we got there, we did a series of, Crithiel figured out that there were rumors that about the river routes, with the agreed upon diplomatic envoy, all the Corsair ships had left. They sailed south, and this led to a great hope within Pelargir. But Crithiel, she also found out that there's a village south on the river fords that no one from that village had been heard from for a couple of seasons, and that was troubling. Uh, Zachariah did research and found out that why there seems to be a real strong sense of conflict in the future, there was an uneasy quiet now. And then Sol Marion, as a sky watcher, went to a top of a tower and you know basically sensed the wind, tasted the wind. And the wind that communicated the most was from the east. It was stale, it was stifling, it was warm, it was not refreshing. But then she picked up a cold wind of malice coming from the west, that only promises that it is ready. And as the group of us, the fellowship, kind of stitched together these various rumors, uh, scholarly insights, and this kind of divining of the winds, we concluded that we needed to get word back uh, to Ecthelion that the Gondorian fleet might be opposed, that the Corsairs might be ready for them. Um, and that led us to an audience, a council meeting with Lord Minadril II, who is the current leader of Pelargir. His namesake was the King of Gondor, slain in the battle in which Pelargir initially fell to the enemy. Uh, and that name lays heavy upon his shoulders. He's done well, he's preserved the city, but he's not had a big test yet, and he's older, so maybe he doesn't need to want to face a big test. Uh, but we went to him, and we had a very successful council meeting. And we didn't ask for grand things. We asked for dispatch of soldiers and guards to help us go as far south as they were willing to go with us. And they'll take us south of the main river, the Anduin, and into to the boundary with the river Ford. Uh, he also gave us his sense that he sees Selentir as his biggest rival. That Selentir is led by Lord Dusad, who is of Numenorian descent and is a rival of the throne of Umbar. And this had us speculating that maybe the most promising path for us is to not go through Selentir, because we went to Selentir and we counseled and we got favor. That might put us at a disadvantage in Umbar, given the rivalry between those power centers. And that, if I go back to the map, that if instead we went the southeasterly route and went to Harminden and Abrakan, that those two places there's less intelligence from, but they might be, if not initially friendly, to a Gondorian diplomatic mission from Minas Tirith, that they might be persuadable, and that we might gain good intelligence, we might gain some favor, we might gain some things that will help us, and maybe most importantly, we'd be arriving in Umbar not from the coast, not from Salantir, but from the east. Yep. And there might be benefits to that. So that's my recap of session 1.
Yeah, and I'll add, the benefits of going to the east is that we draw away people's looks from, even though we theoretically have diplomatic passage, who knows how long that lasts, but that by going east, we avoid drawing any attention to the water, where our good friend is going to bring the fleet after everything fails and falls apart. He's going to go crush them. So we don't want to let them see that. The other thing about Harmington is that it seemed, like you said, it seemed a little bit like Salantir and Umbar are probably going to say no regardless, but Harmington seemed like they're kind of more on the fence. Maybe we could go there first and then say, hey, by the way, your friends in Harmington are good friends of ours too, and do start our diplomacy over there where we actually have a chance at it, as opposed to going straight to the folks, having them say no, nuking them to the ground with Aragorn's fleet and being done with it. Better chances if we go that way.
Yeah, excellent. So, with that said, you guys have a choice to make, and this is the point where a choice has to be made. It sounds to me like there's a leaning towards Harmington, but as you are prepping to leave Lord Menardil's council and his city, you must choose to either take the road west or take the road to the southeast. He will send you a group of troops that will assist you in your travel for a time, for Mr. Francis's benefit. If you with those troops, you will either get them to the ford across the river fords right here. So you'll get a couple of hexes if you take them this route. If you take them the other route, they will go with you through these 3 green, any of the green hexes, until you cross the river Anduin over here. So you get basically some support for up to 4 hexes, depending on which route you go, from his troops. But once you cross a river, you're kind of,
that makes sense,
on your own.
Okay. And then there was, Zach, Francis, for your benefit, there were rumors of this settlement down where the blue X is, that had been recently abandoned for some reason, I believe, and we wanted them to actually go check it out and figure out, it's only 2 hexes, it's only 2 days walk away. Come on, guys, go check out what the heck happened to that. And we were asking them about that. I felt like that was one of the other options, that we could go with them that far, but then it seemed more of a, hey, we could check this out. Maybe that has something to do with something, but not something that they were interested in walking 2 days just to check on their people. So they didn't seem too worried about it. But it puts us on the wrong side of Harmington, on the wrong side of that more dangerous road to Harmington.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we essentially heard a rumor that there was a settlement there that the city had lost contact with. And essentially what we as a fellowship, kind of when we deliberated, we thought, well, it's really none of our business. And while we are, good and kindly people, like, we have a mission, and that is not our mission. So, we took it to the council, and I think it came up, but essentially we did not volunteer ourselves to go down there, as that is not our business. And
it seemed like a good way on the way to Salentir. It would be a great thing to check out, but if we're going to Harmenden, it's just too far out of the way.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Cool.
So yeah, Salentir seemed a bit of a it would be a political hot potato, because if we go there and we make peace with them, that puts us in a bad situation with Umbar. If we don't make peace with them, we don't know if we get out of there. Like, if we tip our hand that there's a fleet coming to fight Umbar, that again puts us, like, pretty much like, it would be very, very difficult to navigate politically if we went there, and we would be essentially going into that very far from home and without any support. So Harmenden seemed safe. I will say that the going beyond Harmenden was discussed only in the briefest and most jovial of moments. So I think if it's going to Harmenden, it's going as far as Harmenden and kind of seeing what the situation is.
I mean,
hey,
yeah,
before you start, Zach Francis, could you, because I realize people in chat, they listen to session 0, but I don't think they've had a proper introduction for your character.
Oh,
as
God.
you kind of fully baked it. So it will help me to know who your character is.
Oh, man. Well, I was hoping to have maybe a little bit more time for that. But let's just say, let's see. He is a ranger from Ecthelion. His name is Garwin. I have some ideas about how I want his character to kind of develop a little bit here throughout the story, maybe. So we'll see. But I imagine right now he is he's very wary of pretty much everybody. He doesn't really trust a lot of outsiders. He's very much he's okay with the group, right? But he's also very much like for Gondor, and that's his goal is for Gondor. And I think I know where I want him to end up, so we'll see how it plays out. I don't know too much about. I haven't really thought too much about his backstory, except I would imagine that since he was little, he always wanted to serve Gondor in any way possible. Ecthelion was where he was from, so that's where he kind of was. I imagine that he was probably some of the people that kind of tried to, like, he was somebody who wanted to become like a knight in the White City and wasn't good enough or kept failings in some way, and wasn't able to get to that point, and so he went to become a ranger of Ecthelion, and really found that he, knowing that area, growing up in that area, he was really good and kind of quickly, climbed the ranks there, to be then chosen to do this. So to him, this is a huge honor and a huge, like, I cannot fail this mission regardless of what happens. And that's the kind of like mentality, is like it's the honor above all kind of feel right now, at least for him. And so that's kind of how I'm envisioning him. And so knowing all this information from the past session, I think he would also agree that going to Harmenden would be the best way to do it, to make sure that the fleet is not, no eyes are on the fleet. It doesn't hurt anything politically by going to the other place first and potentially making allies, but also making enemies. To him, this would make the most sense, to most efficiently and quickly get to the goal of this mission. So I think that's where he would be at for this decision. And he would be very much like, this is it, let's just do this. And Yeah. So I don't know. What else do you want to know about him? Did we show a picture of him? Do you want to know what he looks like?
I can definitely do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and
I think
it's
we
not
showed
that
it
he's
last time, yeah.
necessarily distrustful of other Gondorians, but he also will be very questionable about their loyalty. I think because he is so loyal and that is his thing, like he wants to make sure that everybody is the same as he is. And I think I want it to be like to a fault, and I want him to learn that there's more to being that honorable and being that loyal than just loyal to Gondor. And I don't want that to be the vibe. He's a nice person, but he will be very careful about who he just starts to trust.
Mhm.
So that's Garwin.
Awesome. Fantastic. So the first thing, as you guys are preparing for your journey to Harmenden, is going to be this route along the road that leads across the river here and towards the smaller river of Fords. So this is going to be a journey that you don't have to stop here at the Fords. It's just that you don't get the benefits of your allies, of the retinue that's traveling with you. So you all are on your horses, and we've talked about that before. The men that accompany you from Pilargi are also horse. So this is a fast travel. You're in mass company. The Lord himself isn't riding out with you. He probably would, but or would be willing to some extent. But he has other preparations, and you know what some of those are. So you're gonna get basically a contingent of his noble knights. To that end, as you are riding out, let's show you a kind of a visual of what sort of terrain you're going to be moving through here. So I think this is it. Yes. This is kind of the visuals of that space. So it's a little bit more dry and arid than you see in Gondor proper, but it's still not desert, right? And especially around the rivers and in the area, some miles around, you're going to have plenty of vegetation and growth and forest, light forest, things like that. So I need to know from you guys, in a much more interesting check than last time, hopefully. I need to know which one of you is going to take on which role for this next travel. We need a guide who's going to be making travel checks. We need a lookout who's going to be making perception checks. We need a hunter who's going to be making hunting checks. We're going to need a scout who's going to be making explore checks. Mr. Francis, is your character well versed in any of those?
I wanted to say yes, and I thought I had my sheet saved, and now all I have is an empty sheet. So, that's fantastic. I thought I filled this all out the last time, and it was all done, and I guess maybe it didn't save. So, I will take whatever is left while I try to figure this out.
Okay, cool. Fair enough.
Because what the heck?
And on the flip side of that, if you recall, Crithael is good at pretty much all of those skills, so she's also able to take most things on. I have a question for you, Zach. This is regarding being in the warded land. Are we still in Gondor, technically?
Yes, until you hit the river right here, this wider river, you are in what is called South Gondor, which is still land claimed by Gondor proper.
That is what I thought.
Yes.
I'm willing to do different things. I will say that given that I am a princess of Belfalis, I do have expertise on travel when we're going by horses.
We're just leaving now, so our food stores are pretty good.
Yeah,
right?
Everything's good there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna take on hunting.
Okay. Awesome.
I suck at it, so
I love it.
I feel like that's the way that if I can't contribute in any of them very well, at least we're not going to starve if I suck at hunting.
I feel that we're going to send Zachariah into the field and you're going to come back with some berries.
It's very possible.
And
Very possibly.
And the other thing that I can do that I'm just refamiliarizing myself with my character sheet is that my character is allowed to cover more than one role without penalties.
Cool.
Again, if somebody wants to be a princess in a different way and not do anything, then, you know.
Zach, I want to remind you here, because this might be part of it. Remember that the character sheet for this is a PDF. If you recall that.
Yeah, I have it downloaded. It's not filled out at all. Like not even my character's name or anything. And I know that I wrote all that down. So I don't know where it went, but I have an empty folder now. So this is great.
Well, I'll do some checking on my end while we're playing, and I'll see if you happen to send it to me somewhere. I'll ping you.
So Ryan is doing travel.
Yes, Ulysses is. I think.
Okay. And sorry, what did
Zachariah is doing hunting.
He's doing hunting or not doing
hunting?
Both.
Yeah, both. So you could do either lookout or you can do scout, Andrew.
And those are explore and perception, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm okay with both of those, and I imagine that Garvin's probably capable in both of those as well.
I would imagine so.
Yes.
Well, here's the answer, right? Why don't we hold on to that, knowing that those are the two roles that you guys are going to share? It may not come up for a little bit, right? Because it kind of depends. So, Zach, you'll have some time here to figure out Noodle, and it may not be a big deal at all this evening, but just know that I might, depending on how things go, you might be rolling some dice for being a lookout or being a scout. But
I think he would probably be a good lookout or a good scout, either one.
Yep.
Knowing his background and everything, so I would be fine with either one of those or both or whatever you need me to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's the same for both of us. I get the sense that our characters are probably have a somewhat of a kinship at being comfortable in the Outlands here, and just
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's start with Ulysses. So Ulysses, I'm going to give you 2 benefits for having the Knights of Pelarg here with you. So the first benefit is going to be in your Wisdom travel check. Typically, this has a DC difficulty of 15. I'm going to reduce that down to 12 because you're in the company of people. Even though you're leading them, you're going to likely cover more ground just because nobody is likely to waylay you where there's a whole troop of knights. So I need you to make a DC 12 Wisdom travel check.
Here we go. All right, so we head off. I just want to say this is a momentous thing because this was a friendly place. We have this escort, but we're heading southeast on the road to the crossing of the River Fords, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here's the first travel road. I imagine that Solmarian is talking to the guards, getting their local knowledge, thinking through things. And you know what? He lowered it to a 12, and I got a 12.
Amazing. So what that's going to mean is that a couple things happen. We're going to cover the full extent of that, but the first thing that happens is that we know that you're going to make it 4 hexes. So why don't you go ahead, since that's your token, and move you 4 hexes down your route.
Okay, so let me just... that's 1 hex, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Second hex?
Yep.
Third hex?
Yep.
Okay.
And now 1
more. We're at the river.
Yes.
And then we go there.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so that we're going to cover more of that in just a moment. But as we're setting the stage for this scene, there's another roll that needs to happen. So I'm going to have Zach Francis, just because you didn't get to roll a lot. You didn't get to roll any last time.
Yep.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you roll on the journey events table. So this is a a situation where the higher you roll, this is a D20 table, the higher you roll, the better. And I need, because of you having knights in your company for the majority of this, I'm going to let you roll twice and take the higher result.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, are we choosing to not follow the road? And is
We are
there
following.
a consequence to that choice, other than the random things?
Oh, wait. We follow the road to the river, but the guards from Pelargir informed us that once you cross the river, the road gets sketch.
Okay.
It becomes more dangerous, and that there is a less dangerous open country pathway to Harmondon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get there quicker because you're not encountering strangers on the road every 5 miles. Okay, so Mr. Francis, 2d20 rolls,
Yep.
please.
Got it. Oh, I need to go back to this one. 2d20.
5 and a 12. So you're gonna want to take the 12 here.
Yes.
Well, let me give you a choice here. I'm gonna give you a choice of two options. You could either
Okay.
set one of your companions up for a scene involving ill choices, or you can set one of your companions up for a scene involving a mishap. Which one would you like to lay the groundwork for here?
Let's try the mishap.
The mishap. Okay, so they're
Let's try
about
the
the
mishap.
same level of threat. Oddly enough, you really need to get a 15 or above to really have, or roll a 4 or below in order to get like something severely negative or incredibly positive. So you didn't. There wasn't a. It's not a big deal. You guys could survive this. All right, so we've got a mishap here. So the last piece of this puzzle, Brian, could you roll me a d6, please?
6.
2. Perfect. So this is going to be an event for the scout. So I do need to know from Zach or Andrew which one of you is going to be the scout and which one's going to be the lookout.
You go ahead and pick, because I played last. You missed last session, so you choose what you'd like to do: lookout or scout.
I'll do scout. I'll just do scout. That sounds fun.
Perfect.
I'll keep watching.
Awesome. So first thing that happens, we're going to make a mark off to the side here like we did before. The fatigue DC is going to go up by 1, so we'll just put a mark off to the side there. That is something that is unavoidable. Now, Zach, what we know is that you all travel for several days with these knights, and while in their company, you know, it's pleasant enough. You're on a mission. They're in their home territory, so to speak. So there's not a lot of like major incidents. There's not a threat. You feel comfortable. Speed is efficient. All that happens, right? Then you cross the river, and because Ulysses rolled well on his check, you covered a lot of ground before this event happened. But this event happens. You cross the river. The knights say their farewell, and then in that first day where you are alone and back on your lonesome, an unfortunate event happens. And because we're learning this game, an example of a mishap that they give in the book is Sam and Frodo with their rope and try to like like forgetting rope, or like they're navigating the crags there, right, and getting lost, things like that, right? Those are the example. That's their key example of this, right? So you get past it, you deviate from the road, and as a scout, the mishap that occurs to you is going to be while you are isolated and away from your companions. does anything, before I give my suggestion, does anything come to mind for you? This is the part that I like about Journeys, and that you guys get to have some say in this if you want to. Does anything come to mind as a mishap that might happen as you're out in the wilds of South Gondor, kind of in neutral territory to some extent, perilous country to some extent, that comes to mind for you?
Mm. I mean, two things come to mind that could happen while we're out in the wild. Either we stumble across a den of something that doesn't want us to be there, or there's always those ravines that can be kind of deep, and sometimes you might miss it and fall down into them. So those would be the two things that I could think of, especially in a drier area, that might end up coming up.
Awesome. Cool.
Not to make things potentially worse for us here, but
No, you're good. You're good. Let me propose an initial thing here. So here's kind of a fun image to set the stage. I'll share that with you guys.
I like the ruin.
So here's what I'm going to say for the mishap, right? You are, your company, your companions are kind of on this mountainside, kind of drier, more barren. They're traveling along with their horses. You're going ahead and scouting, so you see these ruins up in the distance, some stronghold long forgotten, long not put into use, probably largely crumbled. Something that perhaps if you had your scholar with you as a scout, he would have something to say, or could look up and say, this is the great watchtower of Almansul, as an example, right? But he's not here with you. He's with the rest of the company. And so as you're traveling along, you find this ruin and you decide to go check it out. Not a heavy thing, but as I'm going to make sure that there's not an infestation here. There's not inhabitants in here, and just kind of get a sense for what we're passing by. And what I'll say is, you get up into that ruin with your horse, and maneuvering through it. At some point, you get to a point where it becomes quite clear why this has been abandoned. This is a precipitous, on the verge of collapse built location. That given the right storm or the right commotion or the right whatever, a huge portion of this could come toppling down. And so I think your situation is thus that by the time you realize the predicament that you got yourself in, it's going to take you some time and some caution in order to get out without disturbing anything. You're probably not going to bring the whole tower down on you, but without, like, the floor or the wall or the whatever collapsing around you, or your horse kind of stumbling and kicking off into a piece, right? So it's a perilous location. Does that sound reasonable to you, Zach, before I move on here? Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds pretty reasonable.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to make a wisdom explore check. And
now. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So and just give me the result once you
well, so I don't have any of my stats anymore, and I do not remember what it was, and so I'm gonna have to figure that out first. I don't know where anything is.
So I think the easy thing to do here, Zach, just chat. People watching at home, this is a great opportunity. No. I'm not about to say how dare Zach. I'm about to say this is a great example of what happens when somebody it comes up like this, right? Just roll the d20, and if you roll high, then we know that you would have succeeded, right? And if you roll low, then we know you didn't. So we 35% of the rolls we won't even have to think about. So.
And if you're a wisdom class, you are a +4 or +5.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's-
you killed it, right? Like we don't need to know that what exactly your number is, because you laid down the law there, right?
Yeah.
He's like an electron in the uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
So we can't pin him down for the ability score or the modifier, but we know he's there.
Yeah, you're awesome. So Mr. Francis, like even though you've put yourself in a precarious situation, uh, 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 the reality of being a ranger of Ecthelion is that you're always in a precarious situation of some sort, right? And being light on your feet and your horse being light on its feet is important across the board. So it takes you a little bit of time, but you're able to navigate back out of that ruin. And I'll let you report back to your companions or anything and kind of carry that for a moment before we move on.
So I find these ruins, and you said there. I didn't. You said there wasn't anything in there that I thought was dangerous. You said there wasn't like an infestation or anything.
Just the
that,
structure itself is dangerous, not any
just the structure
inhabitants.
itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So like potentially a good place to, camp out for the night, maybe to get some shelter, hide some fire if we needed to.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go inside of it, but you could be around it and know that there's probably
Yeah.
not going to be inhabitants. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I will go back and I will report back and I will let them know like there's a structure a few miles that way. I wouldn't probably want to go inside of these ruins. However, the path to the ruins is not exactly one that just anybody would take. And I think it's one that we could make through and find a fairly safe place to camp for the evening. If you guys are wanting to do that.
When you say ruins, did you mean that there's old, not treasures, books and knowledge of? Do you recall the location? Was it what were the mountains and the cliffs around it? I'm just going through a few possible connections, and I'd like to figure out if those happen to perhaps be any. There's a castle that should have been around this area, and I'd very much like to see that. Do you think we can get there while there's still a little bit of light? And would you mind going inside for me?
I'm going to just, Zachariah, I cannot wait for you to tell us what you know about the ruins, but I'm all in on the ruins. I'm tapping into Silmarion's royalty remembered, which is her virtue. And she will want, most certainly, to go look at ruins of an ancient Gondor.
I
Crithale,
want you guys to go inside and check them out and let me know.
Well, I think we can get there before it gets dark. I'm not sure it's not sure it's an attraction that we want to just go and walk around in necessarily, but potentially we can at least take a look at the entrance before we end up having to leave.
I much prefer the open sky and the cover of a tree for cover than some abandoned thing. Who knows what lives in there? Who knows what was left in there? Things that are derelict are such for good reason, usually.
Crithiel, I agree with you. We may not want to go deep in the ruins, but we are heirs of Gondor and Numenor, and I think that it would be interesting for us to see the remnants of what once was.
So,
What?
go ahead.
What is Crithiel's favorite weapon?
Sword. Short sword.
Our swords will properly meet any adversary. And maybe camping near the ruins will lessen the possibility of us being encountered by people who might otherwise be afraid of ghosts and ruins.
Ruins make for deep shadows and lots of nooks and crannies for things to hide in, but I shall go where the fellowship goes and keep my eyes sharp.
So once you get closer, Zechariah, you're able to kind of get a sense of these ruins as they come into view, and you recognize. You don't recognize them in the sense of you've seen them before, but there's enough features of them that if you wanted to consult your lore books and kind of get a sense for if you knew anything about them or could gain more of an insight here, you're welcome to. But that's up to you.
Of course, yeah. I'm certainly not going inside. That's for the rest of the folks. But yeah, I'd be happy to check them out. Let's see here. So, yeah, so I've got old lore or I've got investigation.
I'd say either one because your book is tied to investigation here, but old lore would be like you recounting stories of this land or this tower, or this place on your own. I'd be fine either way.
I'll do that. 16.
16? Old lore? Cool. That's definitely enough. Absolutely. Interestingly enough, you looking at this, looking at this location, your gut reaction, and recalling tales, you're certain that there was not a stronghold of Gondor ever here, and that this location is probably by some of this stronghold was probably originally erected by some of the lesser men that were here pre the Numenorians landing and all of that, and that the stronghold, part of the reason that it's crumbling is it's not built by as experienced and deft of hands as the Gondorians and Numenorians were. So looking at this, you would certainly gather that not Gondorian and of the other men, long ancient in record.
Well, if those are lesser men, then I'm rather impressed. So that stood fairly well. So cool. Well, if you I figured out a bit more about the history of this. If you all want to go inside and see what there is to find out, we can. You can mount a great expedition. Let me know anything that you find, particularly with a historical significance. I'll just watch the horses, and we should be good.
We can't leave you alone. You have to come with us.
Oh, I've got the horses. They'll be fine. They'll be.
No, Zechariah. Well, you can't be left alone with the horses.
Okay, now that is disgusting. That is an insinuation that I resent that. Thank you very much.
I love these horses.
I do too, but not as much as that. Wow.
I will remain with Zechariah and ensure the safety of the horses.
Well, we've got some new cannon.
So, Garwin, do you want to explore these ruins?
We can explore the ruins, but we should be careful. Because I'm not sure I like being trapped in a place such as this.
Crithiel, do you think we should bother exploring this as a party of two and separating the fellowship? Or do you think we should simply set up a stable camp and be ready for our journey tomorrow?
Sorry to interrupt, but we don't actually have time to set up a stable camp. I was just going to watch the horses. The stable camp seems like overkill.
Our mission lies down the road. The sooner we are away from here, the better, and with the less risk that we need to take.
Those are wise words, Crithiel. I agree with you.
Just so, as you guys, just to be clear, it sounds like we're gonna camp out here, but you guys are always welcome to investigate something. Just because these are randomly generated to some extent scenarios or scenes doesn't mean that we can't invest in them as much as you guys want. But go ahead.
As I thought about how Silmarion would have reacted to Garwin's coming back from the scouting saying there were these ruins, she would have been very excited to see ruins that were Gondorian, Numenorian make. When Zachariah informs the Fellowship, these are, this is from humans, like ancient humans who were here long ago, that were not the same level of architectural sophistication, her interest is diminished. And Crithiel's reminder of what the mission is and what we have to do to ensure our highest probability of safety persuades Silmarion.
What would, Zach, this might be a tough role, but what would be my knowledge of these people and how long they have, the people that live in this area, South Gondor, Harmondon, how long have they lived there? How long has it been their people? And basically, do they have a cultural and a claim to these ruins? Like, was it their ancestors that could have built this, or would that have been someone else that may have migrated later on?
I think the fast answer for you here is that the people who built this would have been, I think the proper term for them in Lord of the Rings would be middlemen. So highmen are what the Gondorians call themselves. Middlemen are people that either the Gondorians, were allied with in some way, like the Rohirrim or something like that. And then the lesser men are like, again, Gondorian terms, are like the Haradrim and the Easterlings and things like that. So when we talk about middlemen, that is almost a people that is, especially in this area, are like non-existent anymore. So in the sense of who owns this, well, probably people of Gondor have in their bloodline, in their descent, in their ancestry, people who would have built this at this point. That just not the Numenorian side of their bloodline. So I think Gondorians, especially South Gondorians at this time, would say that these ruins are just as much, and rightly so, would say that these are just as much their history as someone else's, because that line of middlemen in this area is kind of either merged with Gondor or merged with Haradrim. So
when you say South Gondorians, do you mean the people in the green area of the map, or the people from Salentir, Harmondon, those sort of folks.
Probably more Harmondon, but there's going to be probably some bloodline of the middlemen, even in Gondor proper, the Green area, Minas Tirith
Okay.
and all that. But more so in Harmondon, probably.
Okay, cool. Just thinking
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. So awesome. So I think the resolutions here. I love the visual, right, of making camp inside of those ruins, and Zachariah kind of like gazing at them and recounting what he knows of the middlemen and their history, and how they've kind of faded into the twilight, and there's their stories are now your stories in some ways, and the stories of others. But there's relics still that are clearly of cut from different hands than the proud cities of Minas Tirith and Pelargir and whatnot that have a definitive line to Numenor. This is another part of your bloodline that doesn't get remembered as often. Good news is Mr. Francis has resolved this cleanly for us, and you pass the night in peace. Garwin did his job as a scout. Didn't fall into a true mishap on his own. So we're good to go. So we now bounce back as we set off to travel this next leg of the journey. So Ulysses, this is a big roll for you. I can't stress that enough, because if you roll super successfully, again, we set this back to a DC 15, but if you roll super successfully, you're gonna get all the way to Harmondon on this trek. If you only roll 3, if you roll just a basic success, you will almost get there, and if you fail, you'll be a couple phases away. So you've traveled now for several days. Now it's your turn to prove that you can go on this slightly more hazardous leg of the journey and get you where you need to go.
I think that as we wake up before dawn, we see the morning stars and the fading constellations, and I hope they bode well for us. So here we go. I think a 23 is going to be a good omen of the stars.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so that is going to put you at having an event in the same hex as Harmondon. That's very interesting. We're going to find some interesting stuff here. So you still have an event, but after that event, you'll be free to navigate Harmondon. I think what we can say for certain is that your guide, Simarian, is fulfilling her role adamantly, and exemplary. That's a killer result to get you there in two legs, basically. To that benefit, Ulysses, why don't you go ahead and roll us a d20 to find out what sort of event hits you in the hours before you get into Harmondon proper.
Mm-hmm.
14. Because we've already had that, I'm going to let you roll again, because we just did a mishap. Let's explore a little bit. We won't always re-roll duplicates, but all right, perfect. So, fantastic. So first off, we put another mark over here. This is going to be, I'm gonna give you a slightly improved or a slightly tweaked roll, because you have reached your destination. So what you're going to get here is a chance meeting, which is going to be, I think, really cool, because you're coming up to Harmondon. Maybe even you caught sight of it on one of these rolling, like, massive mountain plateaus and things, just in kind of almost the shadow of Mordor's line of mountains. You look out and you can see off in the distance this town of Harmondon. And let me go ahead and share with you an image here.
Is it going to be a merchant named Twinks?
That would be awesome. Um, so here's an image. So this is kind of maybe a precursor. So another ruin, not so much in falling into disarray, but a tower that marks that you are nearing Harmenden. And I think that this is an interesting place for you to have a chance meeting. Now, let's talk about what a chance meeting could be. So, you encounter someone who proves useful to your current circumstances. Maybe nothing more than a fortuitous encounter with other travelers or friendly denizens of Traverse region, providing the company with food, water, or particularly accurate directions. But the lore master could take the chance to create a more meaningful episode involving a major character like a patron, for example. And that is, as an example, they give Gandalf by happenstance meeting Thorin in Bree on his journey at the Prancing Pony. Um, a chance meeting, as we say in Middle Earth. So we're gonna roll a d6 here. Let's see, Andrew, could you roll us a d6, please?
Absolutely. It's a 2.
A 2. So the lookout, which I believe is you, Andrew. You're gonna have some say in this, which makes perfect sense because you're the lookout. I'm gonna extend it to you before I go to my default. But do you have an idea for what sort of chance encounter might be interesting to you, or it might make sense in your mind for this area around the Tower of Harmenden?
Sorry, can you say that last bit again?
Yeah, that's fine. So
Something pinged on my screen, and
no worries. So, do you have a preferred type of encounter or an idea for who you might meet near the Tower of Harmenden? Before I have a default option, but if you had an idea, this is your chance.
Well, I think that I like the idea of the lookout. So I think that maybe there is somebody who is regularly posted here to watch for travelers. But and you're welcome to roll with this or not. But in that this is supposed to be useful to us, perhaps their usefulness could be that they recently met a set of travelers that came from Celantir.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So let's put this scene together. So you're maneuvering in. You're passing by this, and as you near this tower, you know, based off of your expert guide, that you are um, approaching the end of your initial destination. And as you get closer, you could see this individual, this town watch, so to speak, is up in this ruined tower, and he takes this hand bell and he kind of like rings it, not in like an alarm way, but in a calling out way, and then gives a wave to you as in acknowledging your your presence. Um, as you maneuver up to him, he might even come down out of the tower, recognizing you as people from Gondor by your appearance and garb, and he would say, you know, "Hail, far travelers, men of Gondor, ladies of Gondor. Um, well met. What business do you have in Harmenden?"
We are on a diplomatic mission at the behest of Ecthelion, steward of Gondor, on the name of the king. And we seek counsel in Harmenden for the lay of the land in this area of the world.
His eyes grow wide, and he says, "Oh, that is your company. We received word not long ago that there were to be an embassy from Gondor traveling these lands, and we were asked to keep watch. Um, uh, I'd be I'd be a liar if I said that I expected you to come by this route, by the way of Harminden. But I am overjoyed to see that you uh, have chosen this path towards your destination. He says, are you in a hurry, or can you afford a few moments' time to share news of the North and exchange tales before you journey on?
What is your name, good sir?
Barrick.
Barrick. I am Thane Silmarin of Belfalis, and it is a pleasure to meet your company, Barak of Harminden, and we will most certainly spend some time with you.
Is this your tower where you live?
Well, my good sir, it's not my tower per se, but I am tasked with keeping an eye on the road and the paths to the north, and so for the hours from sunup to sundown, perhaps you might call it mine for the day.
So one could call it simultaneously a barracks and also not barracks.
You have a way with words, my friend. One might say that indeed. Um, he would take you in, and you'll find that this tower at one point was well built, and is not as in structurally derelict as the stronghold that you found before, Mr. Francis. Uh, but it is also not as elaborate as many that you would have experienced at Gondor proper. Um, and certainly it is not furnished extravagantly anymore. Garwin and Garwin, it probably is very typical to some things that that you find in Ecthelion, right? It is a place of necessity, and of simple furnishings, rustic stuff at this point. Um, but he would offer you, there's the accoutrement of a standard watch post. So there's table, there's basic rations, there's a few cots and things in there, and he would uh, offer what meager, what I should say meager, what limited food he has on hand. He's happy to offer and share a midday uh, bite before, if he can pull some information out of you um, before you move on. And to Andrew's benefit, to you know as you're chatting, to add Andrew's input in here, which I love. Uh, in the middle of your chat, he might say something like, "It's remarkable and fascinating. We get plenty of visitors in town, um, but most of the time they're regional, and the news that they have is news that three others will have in the next week's time as they pass through. It's far less often for us to have news from Gondor proper or from Salentir, which, oddly enough, I hailed a passing band from that stronghold not in a week's not a week hence.
What as we've been talking to him before we get to exactly to that thing, um, could I have found out what his allegiances are? Who pays him to stay out here all the time? Is it the town, or is it if if we're from Gondor and we consider this to be part of our land, the idea of an very lightly armed and patrolled tower,
Yeah.
a medic. I mean, that's a military base on our land. Is he just a town watch? Is he supposed to warn them if Gondor attacks? Is he supposed to warn
No.
us if?
Great questions, and I'm not going to have you roll. This guy's very open at this point. The chance meeting kind of gives you, at least this person is a great source of information for you. He would say, he is certainly would see himself as part of a town watch under Sire Grath, who he would tell you is both the local innkeeper and, by default, closest thing the town has to a mayor, or a lord. He would say that I am not. He's certainly not here to. Uh, in fact, he might even say Harmenden has no standing army, and the insight that he might pass along to you, at least in his from his perception, is. And again, this doesn't seem like a guy who is in the leadership of the town, but he would say that Harmunden doesn't make it their business to be at odds with anyone, and because we don't make it our business to be at odds with anyone, we get along to some extent with everyone. And while that comes with its own challenges, and there are certainly types of individuals that we would prefer not to come into our village, it allows us to survive out here where otherwise larger entities and bigger lords with bigger agendas might otherwise contest it and shed blood, and the town might have long ago burned to the ground. So, in Barak's opinion, they've done quite well for not creating themselves to be an imposing force or aligning too heavily with anyone other than to say that they align with everyone.
Barrack, wouldn't it be? We didn't take the road, but that's because of the reputation of the road, and the guides have told us that if one were to categorize it, it might be red with black borders. And obviously, with the unstable nature of South Gondor and disputed claims over who's truly in control, wouldn't a stronger, more centralized government of some sort of another be able to make your job easier, the road safer, trade better? You've got a wonderful place here, but ad hoc patrols of one person at a time or a few people at a time can't truly make a difference against raiders and land, pirates on land, right? Highwaymen, beasts. Wouldn't a stronger, more centralized government work better for you?
He seems pleased that you are asking him such questions, and you could he his chest puffs a bit, and he puts a foot up on a stool, kind of sits back in his chair, and he says, "Well, now, if I were to address such an offer or a suggestion, I might say that Gondor has never seemed, especially those in the White Tower, have not ever seemed too keen on traveling over often down this way. And certainly, though there are passing bands like yourself and travelers upon the road from time to time, it has not yet been proposed in earnest that Harmenden become a bastion of strong support. And if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that unless Gondor is going to fully outfit and garrison a large regiment of troops and be prepared for an extended siege or battle, the likelihood that you could hold Harmenden with the forces that are here or any small band would be unlikely against as many potential enemies as Gondor has in the surrounding area. My reading on all of this, and again, I'm no Sire Graf. My reading on all of this is that we are too meager a locale for Gondor to emphatically lay its claim or to spill bloodshed over. Though I'm quite happy to be proven wrong. Bit of excitement never hurt anyone. Except when it did.
Except when it did. Well, it's
when
subtly mentioned.
When Barak says this to us, Silmarin is going to turn to Zechariah. Zechariah, when you think about the history of Harmenden, What was its deeper past and deeper foundation like? Was this established by Numenorians? Was this something that was part of the bigger land, the bigger kingdom?
I'm gonna lean back and I'm just going to say now we've got quite the rapport, and gentlemen can simply discuss matters without, in a purely hypothetical sense, without any sort of consequences. Correct? We can be at ease around one another, right, Barrick?
He says, I have no authority to be anything but, to take part in
Well,
anything but.
and we have perhaps a bit more authority, but in a purely hypothetical sense, one could look at the history of the land and the peoples that built everything from this tower here, which again, mightily constructed. Just a comfortable, comfortable seat on the road, and the even the ruins we saw along the out in the desert. Gondor hasn't built such things. Gondor hasn't enforced its claims, and Gondor has many other things. Perhaps a peace is more important than than having a stranglehold over something, with all due respect, as barren and less inhabited as the roads between here and Harmondon. It's just conjecture that the people here seem to patrol themselves pretty well. You've got quite a nice setup, and your stories you regaled us with of what you've been up to. Well, it's
He says, well, there is some value in living on a piece of land that no one really wants. Most people leave you alone, or at most appreciate that there is an inn, even in this scrubby place. I know that this is not as grand as lands to the north, and certainly there are lands to the south that look on us with as much disdain. But when we're the only inn for miles, we're the only friendly face for miles, and there's nothing here that's of value to a great extent. It has its charm.
Barrick, tell us about the mayor. Tell us about the innkeeper, the leader of Harmondon.
He says, "Oh, Sire Grath. Very reasonable fellow. Very reasonable fellow. Really keeps the town together. His family has for several generations, and I would hazard a guess that he is doing the family name very proud. Um, uh, uh, he is quite the reason, and his family are quite the reason that we are as stable as we are, and that the people around us are as amicable as they are. I think I have every anticipation that when I introduce you to him, you will get along right well."
And what tidings from Selentir, since you had mentioned that?
Yes, sorry. So let's see. What did the men of Selentir say? Well, um, there are. Anytime we get anyone out of Selentir, it is an interesting occasion. The men, as they say down here, if one is ambitious, one must frequent Selentir, and it is true because everyone from Selentir seems to carry the same ball of ambition inside them. and the case was much the same this time around. Uh, the men that came through, surveyors, I believe they called them, men of opportunity, men looking for an opportunity, men on more than just patrol or on a holiday, but schemers in the best way, sort of definition of the word.
Scheming to set up plans and opportunities for themselves in Harmonden's plans.
Much like yourself, my good man. Very, ironically, or oddly enough, their lines of inquiry were not dissimilar from your own. Um, and though they quickly quickly had counsel with Siregrath, and I entertained them for but a few moments. My read on them was that though they were not an official embassy on their way to Gondor, they were men inquiring as to how amicable the Siregrath would be to establishing a garrison here. And I don't know what all came of that meeting, but I will tell you that there is no current garrison, though perhaps it is too soon to tell whether or not that is still in the works.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember that.
That is a bombshell revelation in the final stretch of our tea with Barrick.
Yeah, and he seems delighted. Like none of this is dark news for him. None of this is heavy. This is gossip in his eyes more than anything. We don't have to get into it all, but he will definitely try to milk you for stories or events or happenings in Gondor. He'll ask you of who is the king of the land. If you tell him the steward still reigns, he will be somewhat put out, but will still he wants to know information from there, but you don't have to go through all of that with him, but as long as you're willing to give him some kernels of gossip, he's happy.
I would probably tell him of the facts of we still have a steward. This is the state of affairs here. But then I would probably also regale him with some stories of maybe us defeating, us as in Gondor, defeating some orcs that came out of, Mordor, or we defeated a whole, whatever was happening at that time. I would just kind of regale him with some stories that I would know, because I did find some of my notes. I chose Herald Messenger, so I would have information of stories and maybe battles that we won and things that were going on, but I would also not necessarily trust him with important information.
Not at all.
And so I would be very careful just to tell him things that have already happened that have no consequence on our mission or the safety of Gondor's political side or citizens or anything like that. I would make sure that the stories and things that I would be relaying to him were fun stories for him to enjoy, or tales of battles and just things that maybe I've seen, I saw a pack of wild oliphants one time and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, or whatever the case may be.
I love that.
I would.
The other thing.
Oh. Yeah, go for it, Brian.
The other thing that I would tell him, I of course have all the historical interesting stories to talk about as long as he would like, but I would also emphasize all of the terrible things coming out of Mordor, because if our goal is to get allies and to hold our lands, but also to get allies in the fight against the greater evils coming, then if we have a complete chatty Cathy here who is going to tell everyone every story that he hears, then I want him to tell the most lurid and perhaps not even factual ones of the terrors beyond the border, and remind them of why it is necessary to have a connection, because it's very easy to overrun an inn and a beautiful tower.
You know what both of you hit upon here, which I think is a key interesting tidbit. You got the sense so far that Barrick is amicable to a lot of people. Once you start talking about orcs, not that his mood darkens, but you could see that there's a bit of concern in his eyes, and he would maybe even make a remark like, you know, oh, plenty of orcs on the road, plenty of orcs coming and going, but thankfully they typically stay well clear of our town and don't give us too much trouble. Though we have certainly heard our fair share of stories, not just from you, but from others of other lands to the south and west. Um, it seems that orcs cause mischief wherever they go, but somehow, some way, we've managed to avoid it thus far.
Is there?
Right.
So I chose speechcraft
Mm-hmm.
as my virtue or my
Yes.
craft here. Is there a way for me to? I don't know what particular information that he would necessarily be able to give us that he hasn't already. Do I feel like there's something else that he is either not telling us or that he could tell us more about that might be useful, that I could maybe share a story that would influence or prompt him to also share something of the like? For example, not saying this in character, if I wanted to know if there was an army waiting for us down the way, I would tell a story about a time where we were traveling and there was a huge army kind of waiting around this ridge that we saw just in the nick of time, and we were able to flank them from behind by going a little bit long, whatever the case may be. And it would prompt him to like, oh, well, there is this thing that's happening over here. That reminds me. And does that make sense? Like to
Yeah.
kind of influence or manipulate the story to make it so that he also tells us something useful? Or do I get the sense that he is literally not hiding anything and this guy is not going to give us anything that's useful?
So I'll tell you what. So part of any encounter like this is that there has to be a check involved. And the good thing about this particular check is that if you guys succeed on this check with a chance meeting, it actually removes the difficulty increase for the fatigue. So you really want a success here.
Okay.
So first off, I think the fact that you broached making a speechcraft or utilizing speechcraft is great because it kind of knocks that out of the way too. We can kind of kill two birds with one stone. Speechcraft is really, and I think you brought it up at a good time, and so I think that we're going to utilize speechcraft rules as intended or in the spirit of the rule as opposed to rules as written here, which I'm super happy to do. So speechcraft is really about having the tongue to influence even the wisest and most powerful people in Middle Earth, right? If you look at the two abilities tied to it, it's really about like at its best level, at its most effective, it's about utilizing intimidation or persuasion to effectively command, control, manipulate, influence, frighten people that otherwise would be very hard to frighten, like an elf or a wizard or whatever, right? The reality, though, is this dude is just a dude on watch. So you are more than welcome to use speechcraft on this fellow. And if you spend your point of speechcraft on this fellow, I will give you any last bits of information that he might have, however big or small, and you will not have to make a roll. I'll just say that you automatically succeed because you're spending that point of speechcraft.
What do you guys think? Should I do it? I think I kind of want to do it just to see. I haven't used it yet, so I figured I might as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like he has information about who has armies, who has units,
Yeah.
everybody marches through there, everybody stays there, and he talks to all of them. He knows how many people are in the Salentir militia. He knows what bad things, how many orcs have come down the river or not from the east. Yeah, he knows all that kind of stuff.
And before we resolve any role, I wanted to add one other thing. I'd like to ask Barak what news he has of Abercon.
Ooh, okay.
And the prep for this, as you think about it, Zach, is he was hungry for news of the North. One of the things that Silmarion would do is, in her very persuasive, sing-songy voice, tell him about what Bephalis looks like, about the lushness of the coastal lands where the mountains come to meet the sea, the horses, the range, and really give him a very strong, evoking of this distant land that's so meaningfully diverse and different from what he knows in this more dry, scrubby land. And but telling it to him not in a bragging way, but in like the exoticism of travel literature, like making his eyes open wider and like maybe open his mouth a little bit, like hearing the tale of it. And as she has kind of worked that narrative, is when she would then say, and speaking of lands, what can you tell us about Abercon?
Yeah. So I love that. We're gonna pursue that. I want to know, because there could be additional insight here. Zach, are you gonna spend your point of speechcraft here? We may have lost Zach here.
No, sorry, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I just have to go to the bathroom.
You're good. So before I answer Ulysses and give some more information potentially there, do you want to use your point of speechcraft? Because it will influence how much information Ulysses also gets here.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm okay with it. I think it's cool. I think it's fun.
So what we'll say here, Zach and Ulysses and the rest of you, your ranger weaves these tales and speaks of Gondor and speaks of the struggles against the darkness and the weight of the world. And the stories that you tell, like you said, are kind of pointed. They're not meant to give information that's actually valuable, but to communicate ideas, right? That hopefully he carries with him, right? And what it does is it puts him in something of a trance where he is in awe of Gondor and kind of the stories that you're telling, and by default, as you four standing here as emissaries of Gondor, you inherit that awe. And so he kind of not that he was worried about oversharing to begin with, but when you ask questions like about Abercon, he feels compelled to like try to be as insightful as possible and try to be as communicative as possible in his answers, as if he were in a throne room addressing the steward himself, right? So you kind of heighten the atmosphere in this tower.
Good.
What you know what he will tell you, Ulysses, or I'm sorry, I need to not. It doesn't really matter, but I'd rather use your player names for this sort of thing. So what he tells you, Silmarian, is that Abrakan is where the Golden King sits upon his throne. You would all know that the Golden King is the king of the Haradrim. So he would tell you that Abrakan is not that far away, sits upon a crossroads, and he speaks of Abrakan in nearly the same awe as he does when he mentions the white city. Um, he speaks of a place filled with color, blues and purples and golds, and you get the sense that he has never been there, but the stories that he hears from there are almost mythological in nature, or certainly epic, of this like place that rises so far above what he has experienced here that he can't fully comprehend it, but knows it must be a wonderful place. Um, he will tell you that it has these massive walls of stone that are capped in gold, and that massive armies are housed there and patrol the land around there, though they seldom cross the river um, uh, 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 just to the south of Harlan and here, which is I think it's called the Hadrian River. Um, um, uh, 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 I'm trying to think if there's other things. So I think probably
What is the current state of relations between Gondor and Harad?
very tense skirmishes. You know, what if Haradrim make it up the road and whatever? They're not sending massive armies, but they're sending at this point, but they're sending raiders basically, and they have harassed Gondor for generations in various ways. Right now, it's not a time of heavy crisis or conflict, but things have never been good between the Haradrim and Gondor.
Something for our fellowship to consider after we spend time with Barak is whether or not we want to make our way to Abrakan. It might impress Umbar if we have come in our diplomatic tour from Abrakan.
He probably, I think you asked something about troop movements and things of that nature too. So to kind of give a full weight here, he would communicate a couple of things, and again, this is his limited knowledge. Siregrath or others may know more, but his expression, he has never seen a sizable force coming up from Abrakan, so a sizable force of Haradrim crossing the river, and so he has never seen it because he has never been across the southern river there. Um, um, he would say that he has seen glimpses along the road of Haradrim, but nothing of major size. As far as the men of the Corsairs and the men of Salentir, he has seen different sizes of forces coming through, but nothing recently of any sort of notice or import, except for that that group of opportunists and surveyors that came through. He would say that the road is not quiet, but it is seldom that it is choked full of an army. And that it has not been in his days that he has seen a true army come through. But there are stories that his grandfather, he remembers his grandfather telling of armies coming up from Abrakan and from cities beyond.
And Zach, refresh me. The Haradrim are not Numenorian descent.
No, not
or are they?
not historically. It is fair to say that it will be hard pressed to find any here that don't have, like especially the nobility, probably have a thin trace of bloodline because the Numenorians were the big deal a long time ago. But not, they wouldn't consider themselves Numenorians, no. Or they wouldn't, and they certainly wouldn't claim that as their heritage.
Good. Excellent.
So what you're going to get from that as well, Zach, is you're going to know for a fact that there's not any sort of army or regiment or problem looming for you in Harlingen.
I love that. That is what I want to hear.
Cool.
Safe traveling.
That's right. At least for a bit, you got safe travels to get to Harmenden. Anything else that you would like to ask of this fellow? And Andrew, to kind of close out your thing. Part of that answer is that the surveyors from Salintier are not here anymore. So you could question about what they were asking, or you could talk to more people, but you won't have to deal with them either in town.
Cool.
At some point through our conversation, is there river traffic between Herandon and Salintier? Is that like a trade route? Like, what is the situation like? Like, there is a giant river connecting the two, but
yeah.
What's the situation?
Absolutely. Like so he will tell you, that's a great question. So he will tell you that typically trade comes up via barges from Salintier to Harmenden. So there is some amount of trade, though Harmenden doesn't have a lot of natural resources that are super valuable. But every once in a while there will be a barge that comes up the river. That is definitely the key thing. Every once in a while they'll get horsemen, which typically follow the river, and that's the case for these surveyors. They were on horse.
So if there are horsemen who follow the river barges, that means that there is a horse road that we can potentially take and break off near Umbar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Barak would say, I haven't traveled it far, but there is a path that it is not difficult to pick up, at least near here, that links the two cities.
All right. Anything else we want from Barak?
I
can't think of anything.
The river that flows through here, does that come down from the mountains?
Yes.
That starts at the mountains. It doesn't go.
That's correct.
Through.
That's correct.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And that's, if you asked, if you would know that probably from looking at your maps.
Yeah.
Barak doesn't have any clue.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Cool. So with that, let's give you guys a quick look at the city itself of Harmenden. Let's see here. Let's do a pause here and a switch over to something maybe like this. We'll find out. Oh, here. Let's do this one. Okay. And let's give you guys an image here. So here is, as you get closer, the village of Harmenden, as it appears.
It's so quaint. I love it.
It is quaint. That's definitely the appearance. This is not a village that is built on a stronghold, and maybe that's kind of indicates a something that kind of reinforces Barak's claim that like they're not trying to be a military presence. The wall that they have is made of wood and is not overly tall. There are houses and stables that exist outside the wall. Um, and as you approach, as you get closer, you can see there is a town watch, and there is like people in the watchtower, but maybe they have heard the bell from Barrack, and they see you, but the gate is open, and they're not calling down or whatever. Barrack is walking with you as he said he would, at least to here. He'll have to return, but as he as you approach the city, he'll wave up to someone that he knows. He'll say, um, it's the emissary from Gondor. They're here to see the sire." And then there's a buzz of excitement from that, and you start to like already get a small gathering of people kind of like watching you and seeing what's going on and who are these people. Um, uh, Once you hit the wall, you can see that Barrack has an obligation that he has to get back to, and he's pulled aside for a few moments by some of his friends or family or somebody that are asking him questions and whispers and whatnot. But pretty quickly he turns to you and says, I must get back to my watch, but I will come find you later this evening if I might, and I'd love to hear some more stories." He looks uh, uh, to the ranger, to Garwin, hopefully, um, but will excuse himself and say, "Make your way in. You're looking for you can't miss it, but you're looking for a place called the Last Port. That's the inn, and that's where Sire Grath will be." And then he farewell and kind of hustles back to his post.
Love it.
The Last Port is a very ironic name for a place in the middle of semi-arid scrubland.
Right. And it is sitting on the river, kind of. It's down. The river is just down the small hill. So it is not quite a port, but arguably a port, especially for this type of land. Do you guys? So you have a couple of options here. You can definitely go straight to the Last Port, or if you want to wander the city for a bit and or the village and get a sense for it before you go to the inn, you're welcome to do that. Do you have a preference?
I think I would probably just do a quick, like, all right, there's an exit. You know, the walls are this tall. There's 4 watchtowers. There's a gate on this side. There's a gate on this side. There's a lake with one of those drains that goes out this way. I would just kind of try to just see all of the layout really quick, just to be safe.
I agree. As I have reflected on Ecthelion's reasons for our fellowship, I think our diplomatic mission is broader than just going to Umbar. I think given the troubles that got laid out in the throne room, we provide Gondor a great service by surveying the lands to the south and assessing the lay of things.
Absolutely. So, just for a cursory kind of examination of this, you could definitely take stock and make notes and all that. Take record. I think that your initial assessment proves to be true, at least for a bit more time invested. That this is, if this town was to face a small band of raiders, they could close the gates, have the tower, have the wall, and they could probably repel a small group of raiders, or at least hold out for a time. But if an army were to come through here, this is a joke, right? This is not a town that's going to last in a siege or an assault by an army. And the people that you see, Garwin and Samari and Zechariah Crithael, they don't look like to be warriors. Some of them are carrying spears. You see a couple of bows, but nothing that implies standing army or heavy training, other than the training that one would expect from a rural community. That said, all that said, this is not a quiet few dozen people sort of place. There are several hundred people here that you can tell at least, and the town is active. And there are people in strange garbs that you do not recognize. And as much as you look at them and wonder, they look at you and wonder. And there is you know that almost certainly, whether you know for a fact or not, you are rubbing shoulders with people from Harad, people from the east, people from the further south. There may be corsairs here in town. There are certainly people of Gondor and South Gondor here, but this is a melting pot of different individuals that are all have all found their way here as a pit stop in their travel. Crithael, is there anything that you want to do in particular here? Are you ready for the inn?
Crithael is probably out of her element for as much as she's traveled like the outer reaches of her, near region. She is probably never been like abroad proper, and she's kind of kept away from those types of trips that her royalty parents would go on, or nobility parents. So she's probably not super comfortable here. But given that the place looks peaceful, I think the only thing that she might be kind of on the lookout for is anybody kind of emanating, danger or malice or that sort of thing.
Okay.
Just like, somebody who like you said, it's not a particularly fortified place, and it's not, but like somebody who just doesn't strike her as, hey, I live in this great town, and it's like there's not much going on, but somebody who is like darker and seems to be a different purpose.
Make me an insight check.
Ooh. Let's roll dice. Insight is good, actually. 17.
Nice. Getting you kind of look for, you're not looking for the obvious, you're looking for the people who are intentionally not wearing armor and brandishing swords and soldiers of the corsairs or whatever, but looking for other people who might be malevolent in some fashion.
Yeah.
What you would get is that as much as this city is openly welcoming, and it is, there are on every street and in every cluster of people that you pass, there is one, maybe two people who you pick up are not your friend and know that, right? And are like, they would do you harm in the right situation, in the right dark alley or forgotten road or quiet campsite. These are people that would probably bury a dagger in your back.
Okay.
It's not the majority of the people in town, but it is far more than would ever make you comfortable in this town.
Well, maybe this is not a question for me then.
So I would, as we walk through and as we're figuring out kind of what we do, I would, Crithael would, when we have a chance to speak together, she would, addressing probably Somarian, but not so as to exclude everyone else, but primarily Somarian, she would say, there are people here who would do us harm, maybe not in an organized fashion, but we are not entirely safe here. We should not we should not prolong our stay.
I would like to ask if you feel, do you feel that they would do us harm because of who we are or because of who they are?
I don't know if I would have picked that up from a.
Because I feel like for example, it like somebody who walks into like a bar or something and people are just looking for a fight, they're there like they would look like they would do us harm, but they don't care who we are, they're just looking for a fight. Or is it because we are who we are that they are wanting to do us harm and they don't want us there? Or you know what I mean? Like, because I think that would also make a difference.
I imagine that the latter exacerbates the former.
Okay.
In that they may have hurt anyone, but given that we have a giant sign on us that says, "Fancy Gondorians, not really from here, don't have any friends," like, it probably doesn't help.
That's kind of what I was thinking anyway, but that's why I wanted to be sure before
Yeah.
we did anything. Cool. Well, I guess not cool.
Let's talk about the last port then, and I think we're going to talk about the last port, and then we're going to take a couple-minute break, and then we'll spend the last hour of our session interacting with Siregrath and with anyone else that you want to in the last port. So let's share an image here.
And before we get to the last port, because Crithiel did turn to Silmarion and say what she said. Silmarion just is going to pull her sword out and look at it and say, Crithiel, did I ever tell you that I named my sword Serek, which means blood in Elven? I think that this sword could draw lots of blood. Lots and lots of blood. And Silmarion says that loud enough for assorted ruffians and wannabe thugs to know.
Yeah, the mood, Crithiel and Silmarion, both of you would notice, like, when you draw your sword, you don't even have to say those words. You say the words, but when you draw the sword, it's not that the mood that everyone around you becomes hostile, but it definitely changes from, oh, these are interesting people, and some of the people being very curious and interested in you, to everyone giving you a wide berth. Like, you have no, there might still be interest, but it's not an open interest. It's a, don't want any part of that, right? Keep my distance.
Crithiel will purposely not even react in terms of drawing her sword or her hand going to her sword or anything, just kind of showing that she knows how to handle herself without being jumpy, and she'll play along and saying that perhaps we should spar sometime when we have spare time.
And Zechariah figures out what they're doing and doesn't say the wrong thing.
Nice.
It was going to be more fun if I said the wrong thing, but yeah, he gets it.
Awesome. So here's an image of Lastport. It's not a perfect image, but I'll kind of describe what you should get out of this at least. There's not this weird orc dude sitting there, though the rest of it is probably like this, in that entering it, it's not an extravagant inn. If some of you might recall inns and taverns of Minas Tirith, it's nothing like that. If maybe Crithiel, in some of your like more rural areas of Gondor, this is more akin to what you might experience. It's smoky. It's it's not made with the fine furnishings. It's made for made to serve a purpose, and the people that you see in there are um, the same sort of assortment that you saw outside, but um, less locals in the inn, at least at this time of day. So there's travelers from all different sorts of lands that you can make out there. And because they're all from different lands, you can definitely, as you walk in, see that over here there's two sets of tables that are kind of packed in with people that you would guess are probably from Harad, and you see another group of people from a land you don't recognize, and then you see another group. There's very clearly defined sections of individuals, and the only people that are crossing that stream for the most part are the staff, the barmaids, the innkeeper, not the innkeeper, but the workers there, kind of going to each of these people and managing them. It's a bigger inn, um, accommodating a lot of travelers, but it's not a jovial place so much as it is a comfortable place. How do you guys present yourself in this place? Do you how do you integrate into this establishment?
Mm,
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I would probably kind of not say that I would hide who I am necessarily, but I wouldn't make a big show of who I am either. But I would kind of go in and act. I would kind of see how everybody else is acting, and I would just kind of have some fun. Maybe talk to the person next to me a little bit. Not bring attention to myself, but also not bring attention to myself by doing nothing either. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So just acting normal. I would kind of see how everybody else is acting in the thing, and uh, that's what I would do. I would just I would be on my guard, but I wouldn't bring attention to myself.
Perfect.
I tell you what I would not do. I would not do the thing where we walk in and stand at the entrance and look around uncomfortably.
Sure.
That's definitely not what we would do. Like if we walk in and there is not an obvious like open table, I would clap one of my companions on the shoulder and say I'm off to the bar, and then I'll go plop myself at the bar and order a drink. Just kind of like go right in kind of comfortably.
I'm gonna walk in and stand at the door a bit uncomfortably and just look around and just see if there's a table or so. I don't know what I'll do if there's not a table. But yeah, I no clue. This is not my scene, and no problem talking to leaders and successful people are actually fine. I can kind of do that. I'm used to the educated folk and all that. Mayor, no problem, but folks that are not beneath me, but come from a very different line of work and life than me. That's just no.
Yeah.
Just consider that these are the people who have successfully procured themselves tables. Think of all you can learn from them.
I'm going to join Crithiel in going to the bar. And when we get to the bar, I'm going to ask the barkeep if, very politely, not bossily, but greetings. We are travelers from Gondor, and we seek audience with Sire Graf.
Yeah, so I think to give an answer to everybody here, there is not a like perfectly clean, polished, empty table for you, Brian. But that said, Zachariah can maneuver as the rest of his companions kind of flow towards. We'll talk about the bar in a minute, but flow in. there's like a corner isolated table kind of close to that space that still has the trappings of like dinnerware, like somebody's finished a meal here but it hasn't been swept up yet. And so you could kind of park yourself in that otherwise occupied by only dinnerware table. Um, um, the bar is less of a bar, and I don't want to. It's not that there isn't one, but think about it more like a there's a back kitchen that's pretty obvious, and what there is in front of that kitchen is or just off to the side of it is a hearth, and there's a big pot of something going over the hearth. And so if you park yourself at the closest thing to the bar is probably you could see back in the kitchen is where they're keeping most of the drinks and the food stuffs and stuff like that. And so if you park yourself here next to the hearth, that probably is your opportunity to catch people that are coming in and out of the kitchen and kind of can supply you with whatever you're looking for there. If your inquiry into Sagrath, one of the keeps will nod at you and say, he'll be here all right. He's not in yet, but give him till the evening, and he'll make his appearance. Always does, always will. From Gondor, are you?
Yes. We come on a diplomatic mission on behalf of the steward Ecthelion, on behalf of the king.
Will you be needing lodging then? I assume so. You're not staying outside the city? He says, well, we got some furnishings for you. We'll set you up nice. And he'll give a nod to another one of the staff, and they'll start to disappear. He says, Sagrath will be keen to meet with you. It won't be a trouble at all. This is the sort of thing that he likes to do. This is the sort of reason that he comes every night, is to meet with the likes of you. And if there's anything that we can get you in the meantime, happy to oblige.
Can I, as whoever he's nodded to get our lodgings ready, can I watch if anybody else is watching that person?
Yeah, give me a perception check this time.
Alrighty. Perception. I know how to perception. Or maybe not. 17 again. No, that's the same roll. No, natural one. I see nothing.
Yeah, I think like out in the streets it was easy because you were kind of catching everybody's eye, and you could, as you caught their eye, you could evaluate. You've already been in here for a bit of time, right? So everybody's already seen you, noticed you, and kind of decided how they want to interact. So it's harder to catch the less spur of the moment things. Before we make any other rolls, you've sat down, you're here. The weight of the road is now upon you potentially. So we've made it to a destination. This is destination number 2, and you've managed to get to destination each session so far, so that's great. But I need Constitution saving throws from all of you. And because of Andrew's and Zach's, Francis's success, you are only looking for a DC 11 here on this Constitution saving throw.
Okay. We're plus.
Oh.
Nice. Plus 2. Hey.
You guys killed it. Absolutely.
Actually, you know what? I did kill it. However, Silmarian wears ringmail. I believe that if you wear ringmail on a journey, you have disadvantage on your fatigue checks.
Yes, but I will rule at the moment not to worry about that because you've been on a horse. You've been on a horse. So
Yep.
if you were traveling, I think that makes sense if you're on foot, but I'm not
Okay,
sure. Where
but the horse makes yes. Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you for
So,
throwing a tender morsel my way, though. I'll take you up on it at some point. So,
hey, you're welcome.
let's do this before we get any further. So I think that you guys all rolled successes, which I think to me communicates that even though it's been a journey, you guys really rolled well all the way here. It wasn't a tedious journey, and this is the first opportunity outside of Gondor proper for you guys to kind of like give credence to this mission. So you're all ready for this. Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break and then come back and do the last like half hour-ish of game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's do that. We'll be right
Let's do
back.
it. Sounds good.
All right, so we're not going to play for much longer. We're going to take about 30 more minutes. So I'll communicate to you guys what the pace of this is going to be. So we communicated, Zach Francis, for your benefit. One thing that we didn't talk about was, you recall when we played One Ring before. You played some One Ring, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there was the idea of a patron, and I think Gandalf was our
Yes.
patron. Was that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So the idea of a patron carries forward into this, and currently you have a patron, in the Ecthelion, right? And that patron gives you a way to spend your fellowship point. That is, in addition to the other ways of spending your fellowship point. Ecthelion lets you spend a fellowship point to roll an additional d20 after a charisma roll has been made, and choose which d20 is used. What we have said, though, for this game is, you have the opportunity, if you visit these major, quote-unquote, major cities like Harmenden or Salentir or Abrakan, if you parlay well with the lords of those places, you can get additional patrons and get additional benefits from them.
Interesting.
So, meeting with Sire Grath is definitely in the horizon for you guys. That would technically be a council. We're gonna so I'm setting an expectation here because I don't want us to go long tonight, but also so that you guys kind of know what we're looking at. The actual council we'll do next session with Sire Grath. So the rest of this session is going to be in the inn and initial interactions with Lord Grath, but not the full council experience, right? So having said that, we know that one of the things that what would be helpful for me and what would be helpful for you guys is, what are you hoping to get as you're sitting here gathered? There's other people that are kind of giving you some distance. You know that you have enemies in this town. You're waiting on Sire Grath to make his appearance, and then he'll theoretically have an audience with you. What are you hoping to get out of this meeting?
Strong men.
Safe passage.
I'm thinking that nobody really does want this area. They are going to end up having autonomy at some point. One way or another, they're going to have autonomy. If we can give them autonomy, whether that is in name or in actuality, but if we can recruit some of these awesome, strong people from this inn and from this town who have known a hard life, and we can say, you can make something awesome of yourself in Gondor with our group, and then fighting against the enemies of Gondor, you can become, you can work your way up to becoming a knight. You can work your way to becoming a lord. It's a dead end area. We got no offense to our host, but you could, if we could get some strong men to accompany us and to join in the fight up north, I feel like that's all we need from this area. We don't need to hoist a Gondorian banner. We don't need to get something. And I feel like that would be the ideal for me. Plus, they could escort us, toward the next town.
The piece of information we got about the men of Selentir coming through as surveyors, men of opportunity, schemers who are looking to place a garrison in Harmenden. That's unbelievably valuable information, right? Given what we already know about the rivalry between Selentir and Umbar. But I could also imagine that Abrakan would not be particularly thrilled with a Selentir garrison going into Harmenden, right? And so as we think about our diplomatic mission, it goes back to kind of the post-Waterloo era in Europe, where you had balance of power politics, and you think about Kissinger and his influence from that era on how he thought about things. This idea that sometimes if you want to contain the Soviets, you have to make a deal with the Chinese, a la Nixon going to China. Likewise, I think we have an opportunity here to use the information of what's happening in Harmenden to get both the king of the Harridan in Abercon's attention and the leadership of Umbar, and kind of make a pressing for the fact that there's a lot of stuff going on and we could all benefit from a détente and trade. And so that's my big idea of taking from that kernel. And I think how it applies in our council next time is maybe asking Sire Graf for what he feels about the Men of Selmatiers, because Barrack didn't know how how Sire Graf thought about it, right? So getting him to open up with us and be honest, and kind of presenting him with this idea of we're this diplomatic mission of Ecthelion, and we could help you achieve, like, your greatest goal might be to preserve the sovereignty and integrity of Harmenden and facilitate it, continue to benefit economically, blah, blah, blah. But I think getting him to be a patron, quasi-patron that helps us with information that we can drive the diplomatic mission forward.
But how can we do that for him? I mean, if we have, Gondor is not going to send any men down here to make our own garrison. We don't want the other folks to have a garrison, but what do we?
But Abercon,
what do we just say? Hey,
but Abercon and Umbar, notified of Selentier's ambitions to militarize this place, will likely lead to its demilitarization zone. Like, we're gonna, our promise to him may well be like, hey, we'll negotiate a treaty that recognizes you as a neutral place and a place that is like an open city. Maybe that's the concept we're driving for. They create Harmenden as an open city so that it does not become garrison, so it can continue its existence. But it allows us to kind of stitch together that balance of power politics that neutralizes the southern front.
Yeah. So that's but I think we're on the same page. That was what I was saying is, it's going to be autonomous regardless. We can just, guarantee that. But I mean, if somebody else comes in and evades them, we're not going to do anything about it.
Well, no, but again, I'm not relying on the strength of Gondor. I'm relying on the rivalry of Abercon, Selentier, and Umbar to neutralize the southern threat to our border.
DM Zach, can you get the map back up?
Yeah,
for us by
absolutely.
chance?
Yep, 100%.
I can't remember the name of the city, so it is the left one, the south one. Yes, sounds good.
Yeah. What what you would know in here is, or what you would certainly get the feeling of, Ulysses, is that whether or not you can make that case or not, what you certainly are getting the read of already from your time in Pelargir and your time here is that, and from what Zechariah knows, is that these are not unified into, like, the South. All these nations are not unified against Gondor, at least not at the moment. And I think that's important for us to keep in mind as we play this adventure, right? Is that we're not playing it during the time of the War of the Ring, when these forces are united under Sauron's banner. These are people that
because we messed up, is what you're telling us.
That's right. You guys mess up,
because
and that's why they're all unified 20 years from now. No, but no, there is an opportunity here to play people against each other that there might not be 40, 50, 60, 80 years from now, right? So worth considering. Got a question for you as you're because I'm getting a sense for that. You have some time here. One of the things that you guys can do is you can search for rumors, try to gather other information from the people here, or do you want to keep to yourselves?
I mean, I already said that I would be going up and like chit chatting.
Andrew's muted.
So I would probably be doing that before I come sit down.
Yep.
Just getting as much information as I can.
Yep.
I do have a fairly high charisma
Mm-hmm.
because I am a messenger and a wordsmith or a word weaver and then a speech crafter type of person. So I imagine that like I can get along with people fairly easily in this sense and have them tell me things in confidence, even though we just met because we're drinking buddies or whatever. So
Cool.
Yeah, Grethel will absolutely have a drink with probably the wrong person because she doesn't. This is not really her vibe, but she's down to have a drink with whoever, and whoever it is just going to be pretty random.
So the nice thing about you, Krithel, even though you're right, you are a warden, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that you get is a warden, a company including a warden, if in a warded land, or player hero proficient investigation can choose this activity as a free undertaking, right? We talked about this in Pelargir, right? So here's what we can do here. It's a little bit more difficult, but typically I say one person rolling per check. But because you get it for free, I'm going to say that you can make a roll here, an investigation roll, to kind of you're probably going to the wrong people, but you still have an ear for things, and you're kind of honed to this kind of craft of sussing out rumors and stories. And then Zach Francis, you can also roll as a more charismatic approach to this endeavor, where you're trying to cozy up to some of the locals and see if you can find any rumors of any merit or interest.
I rolled a 4, which was my bonus is a 4.
Nice. Congratulations.
That's phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, you're definitely out of place. That's what we're learning here.
Like, so you're a fisherman, eh?
And they're like,
not a lot of lakes here, eh?
Yes. You get no real responses for the lady of Gondor here. Zach Francis, I'm gonna have you make a charisma check. You can roll persuasion or performance here. I'm flexible with either one.
Okay. Again, not having everything the
Sure.
way that it needed to be, but I know that I feel like I remember reading something about maybe that was I think that was a Christmas saving throw. Never mind. Okay. Oof.
5.
That's bad.
You probably have at least 5 more, just from your bonuses if you're good at that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that you got around a 10.
Okay.
Well, let's see here. I will give you a single rumor.
Love it. I love rumors.
Would you like? You've already kind of know about troop movements and things like that. So would you like a dark rumor?
Ooh.
Or a lighter rumor?
Zach wants a lighter rumor. I think, I'm gonna go with light. I think it'd be fun.
Absolutely. Okay. So your lighter rumor, something that you hear tell, like, so you go around and you start to chum up with some of these people and chat with them. Something that you can't, I mean, who knows if they're being accurate or not, right? But something that is told to you by a group over at a wider table. You go over and you start maybe chatting with them a little bit, and they receive you, and they are, would you first make your appearance? They're like, oh, you must be a ranger.
I've been known to be. Yes, I'm a ranger.
Um,
And that's exactly how I would say it to try to like make a that charisma connection there.
he'll say they'll say so it's kind of a group of people and they're kind of all weighing in at different points, right? So it's not like you're having a conversation with one person. But what we'll say like, so what does a ranger do? Like what is like a you say you're a ranger and is that are you a huntsman or are you and then somebody else will say no, rangers are scouts, my friend. They're people who patrol borders. So they're kind of picking at what your role is here.
To be fair, neither one of you are wrong. Mostly our job is to patrol the borders and to keep things safe and to alert Gondor and our towns and villages and cities if there is an impending threat. But we have been known to go on some hunting parties every now and then. Sometimes that's for food and fun time. Sometimes it's for sport. So you're not wrong, either of you. But I tell you what, it is a rough life out there, but it is extremely rewarding knowing that you're serving the people of Gondor and fulfilling that role that is one that cannot be replaced.
Now, answer me this, my lad. If that be your role, why are you, rangers that we've seen before don't come into town, and it sounds to me like patrolling borders and hunting. What brought you into our city? Like what makes you so special as compared to these other rangers who keep their distance?
Well, sometimes it's the not special ones that get the special treatment. Am I right? And sometimes
They kind of look at each other and they all kind of shake their head and they're like, "That's not from our experience how it works. It's always the special ones that get the special treatment."
Well, I tell you, it was a right place, right time situation. And I'll kind of get serious for a second, and I'll say, all my life I've wanted to do something important and to do something for the glory of Gondor. And I had a chance once and I blew it. And I vowed to never again cause my own downfall. And when I was asked to help, how could I refuse? So am I special? I don't feel like I am, but I do feel like I have been given a special opportunity for myself to do something.
So you're kind of on a thin thread, like last chance sort of a situation for you.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily go that. Yeah, that's.
You're kind of an
arbitrary.
outcast. You're kind of a person who, the other rangers kind of, turn their nose up at. That's kind of the situation. Not welcome in your own kind. I can relate. That's a position many of us here have come to be in.
Right. Yes. How did you come to be in this position?
So they'll kind of, give you some details of their travels and whatnot. You get a sense that these guys are from South Gondor. They're not, from Harad or the East or something like that, right? But what's interesting to you, what kind of piques your interest again as they're kind of talking, is one of them, kind of as the conversation lulls, says, I saw some of your kin not 3 days hence. Not that far. What do you know about them?
When you say my kin, do you just mean Gondorian or do you mean Ranger?
Well, I'm not the one to kind of assume that all Gondorians consider each other their kin. I saw some, well, people dressed such as yourself, and I said to myself back then, I said, those must be Rangers of Gondor. And then here you are confirming that I had it all right. That people that look like yourself, that are in the greens and the browns and whatnot, they're rangers. So tell me, what could you tell us about the rangers that have been here before you?
I wouldn't know.
NPC you played. I love the voice you're bringing on this guy.
You are echoing real bad.
Or
Oh,
not
sorry,
raccoon.
sorry.
You're good. Like crackling. Yeah. But I caught it. Sure.
Zach doesn't know of any rangers that have gone before. Is this something that
You don't.
Garwin would know?
Garwin doesn't know of this.
Okay, so then I would probably say something like, the only companions that I know are the ones that I'm currently with. I don't know anything about any other rangers that have come through it here at all, and who knows, they may not have even been rangers. They could have just stolen the outfits, who knows.
Oh, I think they were rangers, and he'll kind of say, Beric made mention that she intended on taking the horse road to the west, much as they did. So perhaps you'll find them upon the road, and if you find them upon the road, then with their shining blades and the green cloaks, perhaps you can see for yourself that. But I think my eye is gonna prove true. I believe that they are strange that you do not know of them, but men of your own folk abroad in the region and not that far away from where we are now.
Well, I'll have to keep an eye out for him. I appreciate the heads up.
And so the rumor that you're gonna get there, Zach, just to be very clear, is that there is at least a band of rangers that are in the area that you are not aware of.
It would be very not normal for rangers to be here.
Not typical. There are definitely rangers who go into South Gondor. That's part of your prerogative, right? But this far south, kind of on the very edge, is out of the ordinary. Just,
okay. I will take note of this, and then at the appropriate time, we'll also tell the rest of my group here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Silmarion is going to walk up to the table of Hatteradum, and she's going to say, "Greetings, and salutations to you all. I presume you are all from the great kingdom of Harad, and perhaps some of you are from the city of Abrakan, where the Golden King sits upon his throne. Am I correct?"
When you address them in that way, it's not that they like it's not the level. Well, let me think about how I could say this. There is a dark look on their face as you're approaching the table, and as you address them, and you're addressing them in the best way, right? Like you're not. There's nothing wrong with what you said, but one of them kind of growls and says, "Keep to your own, Northman."
I am a diplomat on a mission from our king, and I would like to go visit your king and create peace between our people and create a better flow of trade so that we would have joint prosperity. I sense your hesitations and the ambivalences of the past. But today is a different day, and tomorrow is a new day. And we can do more if our kingdoms are at peace and there's a relaxation of tension.
Give me a persuasion roll here, real quick, Ulysses.
Yeah. Give me one moment to get the.
Sure.
Okay. 24.
24. Awesome. One of the other Haradrim puts a hand on the arm of the one who spoke, and they say, and then they kind of look up, and you see a shadow, and we'll cover this in a minute. But you see someone silhouetted in the doorway that's just come in, and as he puts a hand on the arm, he looks over at the shadow of the door, and he looks back at you. He says, "You meant no offense, Northman." And he says, "We want no trouble, it's just that we aren't the people that deal in such things." And he'll kind of nod towards the door, and you see this older man now kind of stepping into the tavern, and he'll say, "There's folk that deal with parlay and audience, and there's folk like us." And you kind of get the read from them that, at least from this guy, that like he really doesn't want to. He doesn't want trouble, but he also doesn't want to be seen talking to you, or at least doesn't want to deal with you in any official capacity, right?
There's an interesting testing of water, right?
Yeah, they definitely, you get like, it's like the reality of not everyone like you and Zachariah like interacting in a political or an official capacity. These Haradrim do not want to take that role for Harad. So they are your role manages to make you not like, this isn't going to be a bad altercation, but they are removing themselves from this being a formal exchange between two countries.
Got it.
Though a good attempt on your end. The person who walks in will kind of gives a look at everything, and then seeing all of you, will kind of make his way, kind of nodding to a couple of people, interacting. He gets a couple of people come up to him, but eventually he makes it to like the hearth in the back area. And this is Sire Grath. Let me
Ooh.
share a picture, and then we'll here we go. I'll go ahead and give this to the.
Nice.
So he probably doesn't have the winter cap on because it's not winter, but Sire Grath is a little bit more, not resplendent, but a little bit more well off than the rest of the people here. You could tell that he makes a bit of money. He makes a bit of coin. He's an older gentleman, and as he makes his way over to you, he has this dark wood cane in one hand, and you could tell that he needs it. It's not a thing of authority, but a thing of necessity. But as he gets up to you, he takes the cane firmly in his left hand, and then he gives you a formal bow here in the middle of the tavern, and he says, "Men of Gondor, well received, well met, ladies of Gondor. It has been a long time.
We are happy to meet your acquaintance, Sire Grath.
And he says, as I am yours. He'll kind of look around at the whole of the tavern, the inn, has kind of grown quieter around this interaction. And he says, kind of turns to some of the workers, and he says, fetch a meal for our guests. And he kind of looks around at everybody else in the tavern. He says, and give everyone a draught of ale. There's kind of some like, you could see some like relaxation in the eyes of everybody, and then he kind of says, he kind of motions, and a chair is brought out and set next to the hearth, and he sits down in it. And you get the read, weirdly enough, that there's not an audience chamber here, that there's not a council room, that unless you say something, Sire Grath is about to, quote unquote, hold court or commune with you in the middle of the tavern. And he kind of settles in, and bowls of whatever is cooking will be brought out or produced and distributed to you, and you could see like everyone's ears are starting to like prick up in the middle of this tavern. Like everyone is settling in and trying to get as close as they can without being too forward, as the sire of the last port is about to meet with you all. He'll take he doesn't take a bowl, but he does take an ale that is offered to him, and he'll take a small sip and then sets it next to him on an end table, and he says, what business, what brings, perhaps not business, what brings such emissaries? Are you the ambassadors that we were warned about, the ones that have been sent to Umbar?
We are the ambassadors to Umbar. But not just Umbar, but to the land south. We came here because we wanted to meet you, because we wanted to see Harmondon. And we brought you a gift.
These two droids. Sorry.
And these two droids. And Silmarion will bring out a small box with a bow, and will hand it to Sire Grath and say, this is a special tea from the Delta of the Andron that is a specialty in the houses of princes in Belfalis. I figure it might have been a long time since leaves of this planet made their way to you via the trade routes. But that lies at the heart of what we seek to do, is to bring an era of peace and prosperity from Minas Tirith to Umbar and beyond.
As we
Yes, that is our specialty.
specialty. He so as we start to close out here, he'll take the bow and pull it off, kind of setting it delicately on the armrest there. but he'll crack it open just a bit, and he kind of like brings it to his nose, and he smells what's inside just enough to where he gets a faint whiff without opening it up to the full element. And then he'll close it, and he kind of like looks behind him, and a woman from the inn comes and hurries forward, takes several steps forward. He will hand it to her, and he'll say, "It has been a long time, and I'm heartened to hear that Gondor comes with tidings and omens of peace and trade, not dark tidings of hostility and war. We'll have much to discuss, it seems." And he'll sit back, and the whole inn kind of like is just humming. And that's where we'll end our session for the evening.
Cool.
All right. That's that. Any further into that, and we have to start actually doing the roles of an official council. But I think that kind of sets the stage for what you guys can expect for the beginning of next session, as you have to parlay with this guy, and you're welcome to figure out how you want to do that. But things aren't as formal here as they are in Peligir or Minas Tirith, so you gotta figure out how you want to navigate that.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, I gotta go home, and I gotta be out doing my first delivery at 7 a.m. Well, no, I gotta be there at 7. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
the fun one.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get later.
Always awesome, Brian.
See ya.
So
Yeah, that was good, yo.
okay, good, great. We don't need to take a lot of time here. I know we got people that have been sick this week, and it's late already. But I like, because we're learning this system and we're getting used to it. I'm curious. I mean, I'm always interested to hear how you guys like the adventure or the story or the game in those terms. But we've done a couple more journey paths. We've rolled some more dice, and we've had a couple more encounter types from that. What are you guys thinking of that side of the game at this moment?
I like it. I enjoy the fact that it's not just, all right, you travel 3 or 4 days and then you're there. There's like stuff that you can do during that. I like that bit about that the one from the last game that we played. I like that it's not just, all right, you're there, now what? There's more that goes into it, and the traveling does have consequences, and I think that's cool.
Cool.
I like that even on successes, you have an advantage. And our two encounters were really cool and interesting. I thought the ruins were fascinating side journey that Andrew pulled me out of. I was like, "Oh, ruins! It's quite small ruins." And Andrew's like, "No, we have to stay on point." And I was like, "Yes, we have to stay on point." But enjoy choices.
And that was very much an in-character thing, because, I'm always for, like, adventure and ruins and stuff. I just figured that Krithia would have, like, no interest at all whatsoever in, like, weird ancient shit. I don't need this.
Yes. And agreed. And that's the fun of the fellowship. But it's going to take, like, it will pick one for Zach Francis next week. But Prithia, Silmarion, and Zachariah are learning how to play off each other, and that's fun. But regarding the journey, I thought the fact that the second journey was also a success, but we had this really cool encounter with Barrack. That was great, right? Like that was awesome. That was a great conversation, and I really thought you could see the four of us firing like in different ways. And so I think we brought a lot to it.
Yeah. My from this side of the screen, I like that the system kind of dictates that there has to be room for improv and figuring things out on the fly. I am aware of the fact that it means that there's less probably narrative tissue that is managed to be prepared and carried through. But I like saying, okay, we got to roll these dice, and in the moment, we as a group have to figure out what this means. I don't know that that would appeal to every GM, and I don't know that it would appeal to me in every campaign. But I like it by and large as a different way of doing things, and as a creative challenge in the moment to figure out how we're going to do this. That said, I will say that there is a part of me that hopes that you guys roll certain things really good or really bad so that we can experience that, because narratively I think that that's going to be my challenges. We're early enough in the campaign that I'm patient, because there's plenty of rolls still to be had.
I
But
want to give you a full warning. I'm going to do everything I can with this party, this fellowship, and get us to those rules.
yeah, there's really fun things when you roll on the extreme ends during a journey or something like that. And if you guys get a handful of sessions further and no extreme ends get rolled, that's when I think the test of the system is going to hit for me. When can I be patient, and can I allow none of the extremes to happen?
No, you have a character like Cicero or I should be. You can say, oh, you don't know the level of this. Yep. Okay, yeah, you get a badass. You can handle a lot of shit. It's good. It's good. So that will be fine. And Zach Francis will get us. He's a ranger.
It's true.
I'm telling you.
It's true.
I got a ranger. I got a board. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, hey, let's call that good. I don't want to keep you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. And we'll. I think one way or another, next session should be very, very different. So we'll find out what that looks like. But thanks, chat. Thanks, Ulysses and Andrew and Zach, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.